Hi everyone, this is Agneta, Sofiainstitutet in Sweden. I'm going to give you a solution on what the word Val means. For me, it's the most important word in history. It's the source of our own existence, so we really need to know what it means. And I think it has been wrong translated. The stone that you see here is a Valgostein, and it's found in Vallstena in Gotland in Sweden, and it's dated 400 after Christ. So we can begin with just that picture. We're going to come back to it. I have together with student Urbe, we are two nerds. We don't have any specific educations. I have been my own entrepreneur for 35 years soon, so I don't have many years at the school desk. So, and I think it's very important at this time now that we have done this research that we haven't had all the books in our backbones. So Sture has worked 35 years with archives, history archives, and he has translated and documents, and he knows about every archive there is in history. So we together have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to do a different thing. He's a nerd with the archives, and I'm a nerd when it comes to the maps. I can spend hours and hours looking at old maps, new maps, and yes, you're going to see when you're going to take an hour to explain this, but you're going to see that I'm sitting and zooming maps in and out, in and out, in and out. The core of the research that we have done, I started 2006 at a quite small scale, and it went more and more and more. And then 2010, I think it was, that I started to do the research of the witchcraft in the witch hunting in the area of Ångermanland, where there has been the witch trials has been the worst in the Nordic countries. And that way, when I found Sture in this research, because he had translated all the documents from this time, and it's plenty. So it's about 7,000 hearings that they did at that time. But since 2018, I've done this as full time, and the core of the research is that we are trying to figure out what they have been rewriting in our history. It's like a big wound that opens when you start to look into this, because it's beautiful and it's painful and it's ugly beyond words what they have done to our history, and also what they have done to women, women and the mothers. So that is what I'm doing research on. I've been working 30 years with women for personal growth, and I'm working with them with leadership trainings, and I see that there's something that is wounded in women. There's also something wounded in men and humanity. So it's I think it's three parts. We have lost our relationship to nature, to our bodies. We have lost our relationship to a healthy sexuality, and to death. So, but we haven't looked into books. The resources that we have used is the digital archives. And what you see, the picture down here, is a dictionary, a Swedish dictionary that goes back. You can follow a word several hundred years back, as long as we have known it. And that means that we can find words that are misunderstood, that there's something. It's very interesting to open these archives, because you see that, okay, that was the meaning of the word that we didn't understand. And they are, and when I say they, it is mainly the church that has removed words. They have removed words, and they've removed symbols and titles of people. So this is the foundation of what we have, the core of the research. And as a nerd, I can look into maps. And what you will find out when you are dealing with maps is that you can zoom them. So and the words are popping up and they go back and they pop up, and that means that one day you see them, the next day you don't see them. So therefore I'm print screening when I see them. So if you're starting to do follow us in this research, be prepared that you need to zoom and be very soft, go back and forth. And the picture of me when I'm sitting like this is because I'm doing so many hours. So when you're dealing with thousands of hours, you get so tired in your eyes that you need to cover one up and rest it, and then you need to cover up the next one and rest that. It's not really healthy, but that's the way I am. Now let's go back to the word val. I think it's called the cognate in Swedish. And that means that it's the same word in different countries. I think this goes that goter. I don't know what that is in English. That brings the word around and round in Europe. But it's a very important word that comes back again and again and again. And you find it in the place name like Valpolicella, Valdiaro, Bonval, Valgrana, Valverde, Valbruch, Valdefiem, Valdesier, Valpapon. Is Val words all over. And in Sweden, we have this Valby, Valsta, we have the Vals lakes and the Val mountains, and it goes on and on and on. There are so many of them. Sture asked an Italian linguist what she thought Val was, because Italy has a lot of Val places, and it's all the valleys and the mountains and the like Sicilian. It's the three main parts of Sicily has been Val. I don't remember the Val Demona. I remember because Demona is a special name. But she said like this: we have given up trying to understand the word Val. We have come to the conclusion that it's nothing. It's just probably a sound. But it's not just a sound. In Norse mythology, we have this Valhall, Valkyria, Valfather, Valtam, the Val knots. I think it's knots, like the triangles sitting together. The number 3 and how they put three things together is something that goes together with Valgalder. So we have those words in the center of the Norse mythology. And the current interpretation of what this word means is battlefield, the end room for slain warriors, or it's a valorous staff. And if you ask the persons that are working with place name, they call it some kind of grass next to the lake, and it's most of the time that they just say we don't know. But it's a very common theme that is the end room for slain warriors, Valhall. So we're going to see if there is another explanation to this. And we have done it like this. The research that we have done is that we are comparing two systems, digital systems, to each other. I'm not sure that I'm using the right word here, but it's a land surveying, and in Sweden it's called lantmäteriet. And we also have another database with 4.5 million words that is called ISOF, and that has the historic place name registered. So now and then you see, you can see that the Valberg, that's the Val mountains, half of them have disappeared. The Val lakes, that is, we have 3 times more Val lakes than we have now. Same with Valbo, Valsta, Valby. That's there are small villages that got that name. So you can't put any of the common interpretation before that word or after it. It can't be a battlefield. It's nothing for slaying warriors, and it's not a staff either, and certainly not a seagrass, because that doesn't make sense. And I have not translated this because I was very, very uncertain if I was doing it the right way. But you can ask yourself a question: was it okay to really to change the word, the place names? But it is okay. It was okay because it was said in the Bible, in the book of Moses 12:3 here, that you should remove their names. They said a lot of other things that isn't that nice, to burn up their gods and their deities, and smash their altars and things like that. But the most important thing here is that to say that they're going to remove their names. And there is a really power in the written word, how you change things. Because in Sweden, we have, I can't go out in Europe and look. I can come close to Denmark and Norway, but not in the rest of the Europe. That's why I also need your help with this. But what we see with the written word is the translation that Valby, that's Val village, becomes Valby with 2 L. Valsta is also a kind of place where you live, and it goes Valsta. You change the word by using a double L. Then 1495, we have this letter O and Ö that I think we are quite alone with. So you can change the word Val to become Väl or Wall. And then this goes for whole of Europe. This is really important. At a specific time, and that changes depending on where you are in Europe, the D enters the word Val, so it becomes Vald. And they have been very consistent when it comes to doing this kind of translation, how they change their words. So it's very easy to follow. If you manage to see what they're doing, they have done it the same way over and over again, and it's spread in Europe, Scandinavia. And why I'm so interested in maps is because I can see that there are clusters of words. And it took a while to understand the words. And I am going to do a specific video on the words. And I'm not really sure how it works abroad from Sweden. But in Sweden, we have the same words that comes again and again and again in small clusters. And the cluster is about 7 kilometers in Sweden, and that's you can walk. It's not far. We don't go in big clusters. They are in an area of an hour walk. And this is also very interesting to see how the church has renamed the most problem areas. And Johannes is the word they're using the most. Johannesberg, Johannes Lake, Johannes Park, Johannes. Then it means that God has bring mercy to this place. God's mercy is here. And this is also interesting when you go to, for example, South Africa. There's a river called Vaal, and it's almost as long as Sweden. And it flows with Johannesburg, which is the largest historical province called Transvaal, translated as the land beyond the Vaal. So Johannesburg is probably a way of bring God's mercy to a Vaal place, because Vaal is a really trouble word for the church. And I have been thinking about this Val word for years, and I tried to talk with researchers in Sweden about this, but they don't want to talk to me about it because they say it's the slain warriors, no discussion, or it's the stav, Waller. And I say it can't be that because you can't put those words before and after. And I was so furious. And one day I was telling Sture, please just bring me all the Val words in lists, because we have so sophisticated systems in Sweden, so we can see where the Val words is more in one place and less in the other place. And then I was so furious, I just put down my things and I went out to the door. And before I went out, I went into Facebook, and there was a picture of Albert Einstein, and it was a quote: "The more you think, the less you understand. The more you relax, the more you know." I was thinking, I'm just going to go out for a walk, just relax and stop thinking about it. And then I knew what it was. I knew what that word Val was. Val means she who protects. And I'm going to use now at least an half an hour to prove that, because it's quite a lot you have to take in to understand why it means she who protects. It's a hidden mother cult. It's a mother cult that has been in probably the entire planet has had a hidden mother cult. And it goes back to where we went up on our Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. It goes back for a very long time. And it's a devotion to the mother, the Terra Mater, the Mother Earth. And it's not a goddess, it's a force. It's a living with she who protects. And you have probably seen this Venus figurines, the goddess figurines, and they are very, very old. And now this is a Venus of Losel, and it's a 20,000 years old one. But there are 100,000 more goddess figurines found. And it's the same thing. It's a mother cult. The female body is in the center. Her breast, her womb, her vagina, it's large and she's tiny sometimes, but it's a very beautiful. I don't know if I should put some I don't know what to say. If my thoughts are interesting in this, if I think it's beautiful, but I think it is. But then you can see all these Val words in Europe. I have lists of them in my research. But for example, Valverde, she who protects with her greenery, and that is Terra Mater. That's our mother. She is green. Maybe not in Africa, but she's green. She is that is her dress. Greenery. Melisval, she who protects our meals. Melisval is the highest mountain of Isle of Lewis in Scotland. And they have devoted the most beautiful things, the highest mountains, the most beautiful lakes to her name, Val. Meal means, meal in English, that means a meal you can eat, and melis, it's in Latin. Valgrana, Italy, and Orgeval, France, she who protects the grain. It's, I mean, can you feel what goes on if the grain is not protected? It means that we starve and we die. It's a very interesting part. And I will also say to you that I'm not certain that I have translated everything correct. So if you're sitting there in France and say, no, that's not correct, please give me a call. I will change if I have done something wrong. I have no problem with that. I'm not certain. I can't go to any expert to ask this. Valfogna de Ripolis, she who protects the campfires in Ripoll. So she protects them, the meals, the campfires, the women, the villages, the lakes, the mountains, the glaciers. She's all over to protect the people. Axvall in Sweden says something that she who I've lost the word. She who protects the grain shears. I'm not sure that I'm using the right words, but look at the picture under Axvall, and you see that it's what it means. And the horse here, the horse is very, very connected to Val. And I'm going to do some films about just the horse and Val. Now, let's just look at some places in Europe. Val de Lion, that could mean she who protects the village Lion. Val de Fiem, she who protects the women. Valkord, she who protects the court. Valkeakoski, Finland, she who protects with her white light. Valles Bain, she who protects the water, and that's a very place is very well known for their waters, the holy springs. And Val Torrens, she who protects the village Torrens. Valhauten, she who protects Skull. And you can see also in Sweden we had this Valkallen, like you see a mountain that comes up and you see that that's her skull. Valbrush, she who protects the village. Valstav, she who protects the stav. Valdorf, she who protects the village. Valdesier, she who protects the glacier. I'm going to go back to Valdorf because if you can cut the word in two different ways, Valdorf or Waldorf. If it's Waldorf, the German says that it's forest and it's orphans. So, and that's a really strange way of looking at it. I think Rudolf Steiner, when he did his Waldorf teachings, in some way knew that it would be Waldorf and that she protects the village. Val d'Isère, you know that's ski resort. They have a face in the glacier that they call "That's Her Beautiful Face." So it's quite interesting. And Val is hidden under the most valuable places. They take the most spectacular places, and there's also where we build the monasteries. And Val is often the nuns, the nun, I think it's monastery, I don't know, really sure. But this, what you see in this picture is the heart of Stockholm, Djurgårdsön. And that is Valmundsö from the beginning. So they did it to Valdemar. They do everything to men, Valdemar, but it's Valmundsö. So you have it in Uppsala, Lund, all the Sigtuna in Sweden, Roma, Gotland, the most heavy places when it comes to the Iron Age, the central places. This is a picture from Valkallen in Ångermanland. It's the highest mountain, and it's the highest mountain next to the ocean. So you have this river that goes into the land, and that is the first really high mountain. And it's probably a way of protecting Ångermanälven that goes into the river, into the land. And you can find the same thing in the west coast of Sweden, 10 Val mountains next by each other, probably to protect the area from someone who is attacking them from the ocean. You have the Val word coming over and over again in Norse mythology. Val, that could mean she who protects. Vala, she who protects, but in a physical form. She is the leader of the pack. The leader of the society in the Viking and the Vendel era time. Valkyrie is said to be some kind of goddess going through the battlefields and bringing home the dead people. But Valkyria probably means that she was there to protect the warriors, not just bring them home. Maybe that too, but the main thing is to protect the warriors. And I believe that the Valkyria could be a physical person also, because we have over 20 weapon graves in Scandinavia with women in them, but they have no marks on their bodies. They are not this cutting wounds. So the skeletons are whole. So they're probably not out in the battlefields, probably in the background, having other types of roles. We have, this is not from Norse mythology, Valmor, but it's a place, a name place in Sweden that says the mother who protects. Valkjusandi can mean she who protects and chooses. I'm not really sure. Valpugnir, she who holds and protects, if you go to Latin. I'm not sure that I'm right here. Valgalder, I think that is a protective, that you are the Galder, that the Valas use Galders to call for the gods. Valgard, it's a protected guard. Valbard, I'm really not certain about that. I think it's a person who's singing to the gods and to Val. We can't find Valbard, but we can find Svalbard. And you know that Svalbard is in a country in the north of the planet. I don't know. Can't find the word for it. But the church have put an S in front of Valbard. Val. So if you found a Sval lake, it's probably a Val lake. Valhorn, the horn that calls from the goddess, is like a long horn. Valrav, that's an interesting word because it can be the protective ravens, but it can also be amber. She who protects the amber. I'm not sure exactly what it is. But this is interesting. In Baldur's dreams, in the Edda, Odin is saying, I am the son of Valtam. And that means that Odin has something above him, that he is a son of something. And he's a son of she who protects. But what Valtam means is a bit interesting to see. I have not figured out what it is. It might be she who protects and bend and shape, something like that you tame something. You can't take the words and translate them just from one side to another. You have to put them in some kind of system. What is she is protecting something, and what can this Mother Earth force do for them? But it's also interesting to see that there is something above the North gods and goddesses. Valglaumer is word that I have. It is written in the Edda, and if Glaumer means glitter, it means shimmering, it means glimmer. It's like something that is shining. And I think they saw Val's soul in the water, because the water is very central when it comes to Val. So maybe they saw her in the stars that were glimmering, that they saw her in the snow, in the water. Like, they must have seen something in this and like, oh, look at her, she is talking to us. Look at her, how beautiful she is. So it is something with shining. But at the center of this, it's the mother. It's a safe womb. It's a safe place. It's where we come from. We want to go back there when we are finished here. And I think it's important to know that we need to go back to the way they were thinking. They didn't believe in a heaven. They didn't believe that you were up in the sky. They didn't believe in death. They saw everything that goes on and on and on and on and on. And when you're dying, we send you with just some gifts, and then you can go to the next world and you can start all over again. And that is really the way it is, because if you look at physics today, you will see that quantum physics, nothing ends. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just shape form. So it's quite that we really don't need to be afraid of death, because it just goes on and on and on. And it's also interesting to see that in the 18th century, they knew what Val was. In this picture, if you can read it, it says Val place och fjärrspräcka. They knew that Val was a sanctuary, a sacred place that they have, and we have found that on other places also, more than this picture, that they knew it. And it's a big question. How did it disappear? I don't really understand that, but something happened around 18th, 19th century that changed a lot of things. Maybe it wasn't that cool. But Sweden is known for being having had a low self-esteem. When we lost Finland, we lost half of Sweden when we lost Finland, and then we made up a lot of things with the Vikings, with the helmets, with the horns, and the big Odin and Thor and everything. Odin has tremendous. He is overrated when it comes to the imprints on the maps. Thor is 25 times more he's 25 times bigger than Odin when it comes to the landscape. So it's and that was because he was a weather god. They were so scared of the weather, and I understand them. Today it's very warm outside. We haven't had rain for two months, and I'm also scared. So now it comes to the Valhalls. And if they don't believe in heaven, then we shouldn't have a Valhall in heaven also. So I think that it means Valhall. And Al is, I don't know if I say right, goats. That it goes around and around in Europe around 2,000 years ago. And I think they bring this word over and over and here and there. And that's why it's a cognate, and it's so many places in Europe. But we have something called Valfather, and the Valfart is when you travel with the gods, and that is something that comes from the shamanism word. That you can't find it if you Google it, because but the shamans are talking about that they do Valfarts. and that means that you travel with the gods. So when you see this Bronze Age carvings, when people are sitting in a boat, that is a common theme all over Scandinavia. And I think they are traveling with the gods. And Valfärd, becomes Valfärd, when the Christianity comes in. So I think they have used this ship-formed stone settings to be in and travel with the gods. Can't know for sure, but that's just a theory. And I was thinking about this word. I tried to translate it, but a Valmund is a haug in Scandinavia. Valshög, Simrishamn in Sweden, has the name Valshög, Valsmund. And I think we have dedicated to build higher and higher moons. We building higher and higher churches to become more and more protected by God or Val or whatever force we believe in. You see here in Norway, Valhall is the same thing, and you see Hestøya a bit above that, and the horse has this horse. It's the same thing. The horse goes round and round around Val and Valas. This is Valhögen in Färgelanda in Sweden. This is how I zoom the maps in and out. And if you see the little blue line, you see nybygget. When they want something to be new, then the new word disappears. It not disappear, it shows up. But you have a little Svartvik. It's a black water, and they put the word black on the things that they think is very difficult. So there we have many black waters in Scandinavia. Probably other places too. Och that's when it comes to Birka, the svarta jorden, the black soil, Sortemul in Denmark, it's the same thing. There's like, this is heavy stuff, this is dark place. We name it svart, black, sort. When we come to Sweden's most well-known mounds, it's in Old Uppsala. There are three big mounds, and they're called the king mounds. And I don't believe that there are kings in them, and I don't think so many people believe that anymore. But at the 18th centuries, they were big kings that were in these mounds. And then they found a woman, and that wasn't that really that good. It disturbs the picture a bit. And then you can say there's an elephant in the moon, but an elephant is not an elephant. It was what's it called? A bone of an ivory? A bone from an elephant. That doesn't mean that there's an elephant in the moon. But when you come with, this is how I read the maps. This is Old Uppsala, and you see, I can't point at the picture, but you have all these Val words. Val forest, the Val lake, the Vals, yeah, that is a huge, very well-known Iron Age, Vendel Age grave place. Can we have another word for that? That was not the right word, but I think you know what I mean. And there are other very interesting words if you know Swedish, but that's another question. In the Edda, Snorre Sturlason talks about Valgrind on the heath. And I am not sure what that is, but I know that grind is something that keeps something out. That's why you have a grind on your garden. You don't want people to come in and out. You have a grind to stop something out. She, Valgrind, she who protects grind, that can be some kind of stone setting that protects. When you're inside, you are protected. She protects you even more if you're inside there. So we call this fornborgar in Sweden, and I'm not really sure that I believe in the way that we have talked about them, that they were places to be protected from people who are attacking you, because you can run over those stones just in a couple of seconds, so they're not high. And if they would have been 2-3 meters high, then you can ask yourself, where's the rest of the stones? And it's a very difficult place to put this tree palisades to protect. But it's not a good thing to put down tree in it when you have a stone ground. Yeah, I beg your pardon, my English, it may not be perfect. And we come to the Val stones again. That was the picture that I began this talk with. It's Valgustein. And if I go like this, choop, this is Odin's fleece, and Odin has his name on everything. That has really no source to it. So I think that the Val stones is standing stones who protects in some way. I'm not really sure how, but in some way. And then we come to Stonehenge in Great Britain, and the map that I have put in this corner, you can see that it says Val stone, and it's just near. It's I haven't measured it up. And this is also a place that you need to go very, very slow on the map, and you zoom in and out to see that text. But Valstone is probably the right word for Stonehenge. I can't prove it, but it makes sense that they try to build a very large protective area. Really, really. It's like I said it before, we build small churches and we build huge churches and cathedrals. So, and it's not that strange to everything in their life must have centered around to be protective from the weather, from people attacking them, protective from God knows whatever. Everything must have been a very harsh life. And now we're going to come to the end of this talk, and I don't know if you know who Sir Percival was. He was a member of King Arthur's the Knights around the Round Table, and the legend of King Arthur and the Holy Grail comes from two Val places, Wales and Valencia. But Sir Percival is the only person that is really connected to the Holy Grail. And if you divide his name in Percival, then Percy is the same word as persistent. You stand for something very firmly. It's like I'm standing here and I'm not going away. I have these thoughts and I'm not going to end this. And Val, she who protects. So Sir Percival can mean he stands firmly and strongly for who protects. And that is probably It's the mother, it's the womb, it's the sacred feminine, it's the life-giving force, it's the vagina, the most likely the womb, where everything comes from. So, and he said that his character is important to the sacred masculine, to be a man who protects, to be a man who stands firmly for she who protects, a man who is devoted to the mother, the planet, the Terra Mater. So maybe the Holy Grail is Val. Then happens something when Val's time is over, and it starts to diminish by the year 500. And I think it has to do with the climate catastrophe that was in that we got this cold weather in the middle of the fifth century. That we have very cold weather, and the crops were destroyed, and we had lots of diseases. A lot of in some parts of the world, half of the people died. At that time, she starts to fades away, but she lived for a very long time in. If you go to the north of Scandinavia, and you go to the north, like Trondheim, Norway, in that part it lives very long. But you see how they change the translations from Valby, Val village, to Vald village. And then the D disappears and it gets a double L, Valby. And Valsgärde it's Sweden's probably most famous Viking grave, I don't really know that word, grave field. And that goes from Valsgärde to Valds with a D, and then it goes with a double L. But and Vald means he that protects. So I'm just going to do this very briefly because I'm going to do a film extra with this, but this is just a bit of it. And then when the Christianity comes in, you got this male name, Sigvald, Torvald, Ragnvald, the Vald names. You see how the Val names in Europe changes. You had it Bretvalda, he who protects Britannia, Hochwald, the big one who protects, Jorofwald, he who protects Europe, Waldkirch, he who protects the church, or the church that protects, I don't know. Everswald, he who forever protects. Buschenwald, he who protects the book, probably the Bible. Kaiserwald, he who protects the emperor. So this is just some of them. There are so many Val cities and so many Val cities. And you can follow them backwards in time, how they have been translated. And then you will see how Christianity moves in Europe. And there was a group of people that the Catholic Church really tried to force back with violence and executions, and that was the Valdesian people. And they say something really important about Christianity. That was a pre-Christianity movement, and it was the way they were living that was the problem. They lived so firmly with the love of God, the protection of God, the simplicity. They were very different to the Cathars that were very black and white, and they didn't like the physical world with food and sex and things like that. It was like the devil and God against each other. But the Valdesian people were very humble. They own very little things, and they draw people to them all over the time. And the Catholic Church was so afraid of them. But that is also another history. It takes a lot of time. But what they say is that they are not the valley people, as they have been translated to. That they were Valdesian people is that they believed in God who protects. And that is not always true in the Bible. Do you believe in a God that protects you, or a God that is over you, looking down on you, judging you? So what I've done is that I have walked in the footprints of the Valas. And the Valas is another film. But you can follow, they have made huge amount of footprints that we have just neglected. You find the oath near them, the hammer, the wagon, the staff, the horse, the saddle, the Valhorn, the Valur, the Valflute, and you also find huge necklaces. Really, really powerful graves with necklaces. So it's interesting to go down on the maps and see where did they found this necklace and what is the place of the name around it. I will do a film about that. But also I want to say something about the in the text that I've written, that I someday hopefully will become a book, but it's too big, it's too large now. I need plenty of help to bring it down. But the Vala's fate is very interesting to follow. But also Valfather. The last words the Vala is saying to the Valfather in the Edda, now she will sink. I think that there is a she in the Edda in the background. I'm very certain that that is Val, she who protects. And now she will sink. And when it comes to the Valfather, is said to be Odin, but I don't think it is Odin, because then the dialogue will be very strange. It will be like the priest is talking to Jesus and talking to Jesus about Christianity. And she says something like, you wanted to know how it was. Can you imagine a priest saying that to the Christ when it comes to Christianity? I think she is talking to he who's going to come to protect, the Lord, the Christian Lord. That he probably, they said it like, now the Father is here to protect you. You can let go of the mother. She is not, you can't count on her. You're hungry, you're starving, you can't count on her. Now the Father is here to make sure that everything is correct. So I think they switched over like that. And the Vala said, now she's sinking. But I have been wrong before, so I am, you can correct me if you want. I'm doing all of this research out of the fact that I know that those who cannot learn from history are damned to repeat it, like George Santaya said. If we don't know our history and we don't know what it really teaches us, we will repeat it. It's really dangerous if we don't know our history. We will not navigate into the future in a safe way. And that was in the center of, in the Norse mythology, is 3 Norns. One is protecting the past, one is protecting now, and one is protecting the future. And you have to, if you're going to go into the future, you need to know your past, you need to be centered here and now and be able to look forward. So the Norns are, they have a message that really don't just act from here and now, don't act just from the future or just from the past. You have to link them, connect them to each other. Then we know how to move forward safely. And I think it's time to believe in something beautiful again. And this research has been so dirty, so ugly and so dirty, and I've seen so many things that I don't want to see. I felt very dirty after we ended it, because it felt like I want to take a bath for 200 years to get clean from all the things. But it's also huge wounds in men, huge wound in women, in society, in humanity. We need to heal them. And that's what I'm doing. When I don't do the research, I work with men and women to heal and to be kind and good to each other again, and all the good, fantastic species that are not men and women. I think I talked much. But if you want to support me with this, I would be so grateful. We need contacts, we need translation, we need shares in social media. If you want to support us in Patreon or with Swish, my dream is to start a foundation to make it easier to search for money to work with this, and mostly though then for the healing part of it. I want to work with young kids to know their history and heal their views of the damage that the history has done to us. So you find me at Sofiainstitutet, and I'm very happy that you have followed me this far. So I will publish more films. You find them on YouTube, on Sofiainstitutet's YouTube channel. But if you go to the website Sofiainstitutet, they will be in a very specific order, so it's easier to follow and also easier to find the English versions. So thanks for today, and thanks that you have been listening. Bye bye.